Good evening and welcome to yet another episode of the 13%. We are your hosts, Cynthia McDonald and Arthur Ward. Good evening, Arthur. How are you?
Good morning. I'm sorry. Good evening.
Yeah,
Cynthia, I'm fine. How are you today?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking. We are here today, family. We talking about all types of stuff. We're talking about debates. We're talking about politics. We're talking about COVID. We're talking about voting, like all the alls. We're talking about it tonight. So we thank you again for tuning into tonight's show. But get into the discussion. Let's get a little housekeeping out of the way. Please make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to YFNA News and hit that bell so every time that we go live or our sibling show in black and white goes live or any of the content that comes on YFNA News, you get a notification. And also, if you like what we do, if you want to support, please consider yourselves to be in the Patreon and also buying us a coffee. We'll remind you before the show is over. And all these things are in the show. Hold on. The show notes below. All right. All right. So we are here. We are live. We are all that. Yeah, sure. We're all that. So, and a bag of chips, if you didn't know. I'm sorry, people. I'm trying to get my banner going, but it's all good.
Okay.
There we go. Bam. All right. Just in case y'all didn't know that we are Cynthia McDonald and Arthur Word, and we're talking about stuff today. So, Arthur,
Yes.
there was a whole debate this week,
Yes.
and it was my preliminary thoughts was that was something.
Mm.
What were yours?
It was entertaining. I mean, when Trump does any kind of debating it's really entertaining, and you don't get any substance out of it, but you will be entertaining, and I loved it. It was a great show.
Oh my gosh. You know, that's kind of crazy how you have to equate a presidential debate to entertainment.
No, no. Let's do this.
Okay.
Just about every presidential debate from uh, Washington on. No, I'm sorry, not Washington didn't have to do any debates. They just pushed him to become president. But after him, it's all been entertainment.
Mm.
You know,
But
I
that's
mean, any theater or venue, like let's say in Lincoln's time or in Adams' time or whatever, before television, were packed venues because
sure.
they knew these guys were going to go at it. And if you
Mm.
think, and in actuality, the scurrilousness and the name calling and the mudslinging was much worse then than it is
Mm.
now. We're
Okay.
getting, we're getting the mild stuff.
Okay. Well, I guess like, these guys right
Yeah.
here, they must have decided, I guess like Trump wanted to bring back the mudslinging. He said, more mudslinging.
All mudslinging.
More mudslinging. I thought this was interesting. I was looking at an article from the BBC talking about the debate,
Mhm.
and they referenced that the debate in numbers. They said that Trump interrupted Biden 73 times.
Yep.
Biden spoke for 43 minutes. Trump spoke for 38 minutes.
Mhm.
And the longest topic of conversation was the coronavirus, which was for 20 minutes. But one of the things that I felt that was the most consequential about these debates really was kind of skirted over. And I'm specifically talking about what happened when they got on the topics of two things: law enforcement
Mhm.
and race. And yes, I'm just showing off my manicure. Shout out to beautiful sisters.
Oh,
Law
okay.
enforcement and race. And so, like, the whole debate was set up in 6 segments, 15 minutes per segment. And they had topics from the Supreme Court, COVID-19, the economy, race, law and order. And then finally, they wrapped up with, each other's records.
Mm,
Now one of the interesting things was that Trump got a pretty good zinger in for Biden, especially when they got right before records, when he said, I did more in 47 months than you did in 47 years.
I loved it. And I was
Hmm.
waiting for the comeback. See, let me tell you something about debates.
Ah,
Don't ever expect real policy to be
mm,
discussed at debates, okay?
mm-hmm,
Policy is something that comes in writing. Platforms is something that comes in writing. The purpose of the debate is just to draw attention to and change the attitude of change the public's attitude towards a particular candidate. Okay, if you're looking for something substantive in the debate, you're looking for in the wrong place. The debate is where you get your popcorn and your libation, and you enjoy the show.
mm.
That's a debate, and they've always been that way.
Yeah, well, my whole thing, I guess, that even though understanding that debates, yes, they are entertaining, yes, they are a spectacle, and they made sure that it was a spectacle so much that
Sure.
Chris Wallace made was flas with flabbergasted, yelled at the president a couple of times. Now that
Yeah.
was entertaining.
Hmm.
And then and then and to the point where, like, I want to say, let me see, the people who actually put the debate on, what is their names? The Commission of Presidential Debates, the
Hmm.
CPD, which is a nonpartisan body that has organized presidential debates since 1988,
Hmm.
actually said that they were going to be announcing new measures to help moderators maintain order in the two remaining debates.
Hmm.
Now, one of the things that's also going to be extremely interesting is how are these particular debates going to proceed, especially since Trump is now infected with the coronavirus. So
They're going to proceed, and Trump's going to be there. I think he left the hospital today.
he did. He left
Yeah,
around 6:30 today. And
yeah.
one of the things that I was a little saddened about is this tweet right here from him. I don't know why I'm sad, but it is what it is. Let me see if I can find it. I will be leaving the Great Walter Reed Medical Center today at 6:30 p.m. feeling really good. Don't be
Hmm.
afraid of COVID. Don't let it dominate your life. We have developed under the Trump administration some really great drugs and knowledge. I feel better. Uh,
Why do you get upset with stuff like that?
really?
Really,
Really?
really.
Because over 200,000 people have died from
I understand
coronavirus
that, but
under
I
his
mean,
particular
it's
watch.
like,
And the
look,
thing and the thing about it, well, hold on, well, again, I mean, like, this is in all seriousness, and I understand that we have a reality star as a president, and so I understand that our particular expectations of him is not very high, but he's still president.
every
And
president that we've ever had has been a reality star.
but
Every
come
No,
on,
no, 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 no,
Arthur.
really. I'm trying to
Come
tell
on,
you. I'm trying to
Arthur.
tell you. When I was a kid during the '60s, the debates then were worse than they
Mm,
are now. Okay, and I don't have a problem with that. You know me. I restrain myself on this television program, but you
mm.
know me. If I was to get on a debate stage with Cam Howard from Encobra, I have no problem with ad hominem attacks, below the belt punches, uh, calling out his mama, all that
Wow.
stuff. Yes,
Okay.
I
Well,
have no problem with that
uh,
whatsoever.
well,
But I try to be nice on this program because it's a family show.
oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. After you just said that you were about to do ad hominem attacks and to call out people's mama. Oh my gosh. Well, I wrote notes about this particular debate.
Okay, go ahead.
And again, the three things that was really, well, I know, I would say four. The four topics that I felt was the most consequential, of course, is the coronavirus,
Mhm.
COVID-19, the economy, and race and also law enforcement and law and order. And to be honest with you, I almost felt like race and law and order kind of melded right into each other.
Yes.
And the reason being, of course, is because we are in such a charged climate right now when it comes to race and policing, you know, and of course, like the people who's getting like the most adverse attacks concerning, you know, how policing is done, especially in our urban areas, and who it affects the most.
Okay.
So, you know, so going back to like to COVID, you know, we still have to, and going back to even to that tweet that I was talking about previously that he did, and one of the things that's very disheartening about it and really downplaying it is that you have to understand the infection and mortality rate of COVID-19 and who it has affected the most,
Yes.
and that is definitely the 13% of this
Yes.
population, people who descend from chattel slavery.
That's right.
And we can go through the reasons why. We can go because of pervasive poverty in our communities, because of lack of health care in our healthcare facilities in our communities, and other resources in our communities, and of access to proper health care, access, lack of access to proper insurance, the even and also too, since the most of us get our insurance through our employer. So if you happen to be with an employer that does not offer health insurance, that's even going to be, and if you're with an employer that does not offer health insurance, plus you are still at an income that's above the federal poverty line, you do not qualify for Medicaid. So it's a double whammy. You may be poor, but you're not poor enough, right?
Right.
And since you're not poor enough, then oftentimes what ends up happening, especially for our people, is that the emergency room becomes your doctor. That's how you get the most of your health care. And since you get most of your health care that way, oftentimes you don't have a primary care physician. And if you don't have a primary care physician, if you even have chronic illnesses, you don't know until you go to the emergency room because you feel something is wrong.
Hmm.
When that happens, then you are in a whole slew of trouble. Okay. And the reason being is because now we have to, now you may have symptoms of COVID-19 and you may have underlying conditions that's making that particular condition even exacerbated. And then when that happens, you have to treat for all these particular things, which lowers your chances for recovery. And that's what we have seen over and over again. Plus, let's not even, we don't even, I have to even mention implicit biases that's within the healthcare
Hmm.
system as well. People
Sure.
not being believed if they're in pain, and even misdiagnosing, because we even had an issue with that too. People not getting tested, and they say, "Oh,
Hmm.
you got COVID-19, now go quarantine." They was like, "Wait,
Right.
what?" You know what I'm saying? So all these things are really happening, but unfortunately, none of these camps have really talked about, and you know, and I guess like I was expecting more as far as like, you know, really talking about some of the really deep issues that have caused this pervasiveness when it comes to this infection, because of all these different issues that have been, you know, exponentially high in our
All right.
communities.
Cynthia, I'm 64
Arthur,
years old. Okay.
yes.
You know how I love politics. I've been watching politics since I was able to read. Okay.
Mm,
I have never seen anything deep discussed at any debate.
mm,
What I see are punches. What I see are zingers. What I see are gotcha moments. Uh, all this stuff. You know, bombs being lobbed back and forth across the stage, and they've
mm,
all been that way.
sure.
The
And
time
I'm
to
not.
catch, uh,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
right,
ahead. I'm sorry.
the time to catch a president actively talking about something deep is when something bad has happened, like
Mm,
9/11, like
mm,
when President Johnson had to speak right after John F. Kennedy was shot to death,
mm,
uh, uh, or different other Sandy Hook. You understand
mm-hmm,
what I'm saying? So
mm-hmm.
it's that is not the place where you're going to hear anything deep said. You know,
Mm.
you're going to hear a lot of gotcha moments, and that's what was going on there, even with Trump's inappropriate interruptions. But that's not the place where you're going to hear that. I'm sorry.
Well, I never expected to hear a lot of deep issues, well, deepness with the issues,
Hmm.
but I did expect to hear more about the issues.
Right.
I guess like that is something that I would say that every time that I actually watch the debate, I want to hear more of about the
Hmm.
issues, because I don't know. I guess that's the type of voter that I am. I want it because like that's what I am going to be basing my decision on is the issues, not necessarily personality. But I understand that
Right.
presidents, any type of leadership role is going to be, personality first. Let's just be
Hmm.
clear. It's going to be
Hmm.
personality first, and then it's going to be substance later.
Yeah, but
Um,
see, you're in that 10% of voters that actually care about policy and the details of policy. The
mm,
rest of these people out there not looking for that. They
mm,
don't even have the capacity to unravel policy in a lot of
mm.
cases. So why should you give them something that they can't handle?
Well, and this is why the 13% exists, right? Along with us, along with Yvette Carnell, Antonio Moore, Sandy Darity, along with Be the Power, and along with articles of
From
ADOS, along with
ADOS.
Politics in Black and other ADOS content creators. We are here, people, to help you with a political education so you know that policy is important.
That's right.
Some of my other notes. So moving on to the economy, they talked a lot about, I think that Biden mentioned how the economy kind of bounced back a bit
Hmm.
during this pandemic, but we're still sitting at a 8.4% unemployment rate. But what is even telling, again, I'm like, yeah, but check out what is it for Black Americans, right? And when I looked at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, when it came to the unemployment rate amongst Black Americans, we were at 13.2%.
Right.
We're actually higher than every group. White is about less than 8%, Asian is
Hmm.
around 10%, Latinx is like a little over 11%.
Right.
But and it's kind of interesting. Our age group is sitting at over 10% unemployment.
Hmm.
The highest that out of Black Americans who are unemployed at 14.5% is between 25 to 34 years of age.
Hmm.
That was like, oh my goodness, those when you look at those particular numbers, and it's like no wonder that you have such an issue concerning lack of access to everything because
Yes.
these people don't necessarily have like a proper income or any income at all coming in.
Right.
You know, and and
Or even proper medical education or what you can do in order to protect yourself on a daily basis.
correct, because they don't have, because again, if I was saying previously, if the majority of Black Americans get their health care through their employer, and we have such staggering numbers when it comes to unemployment, that means that a majority of us are not going to the doctor often enough because we don't have access to it, because we don't have
Correct.
access to the medical facilities or insurance so that we can even insure
Correct.
ourselves going to the doctor like that. you
Correct.
know it's yeah, it's and I was like, yeah, didn't talk about that, gotcha. So then we got to
Hmm.
race, right? We get to race, and I tell you, it's wow. So one of the things that Chris Wallace was trying to do,
He didn't do anything. Go ahead. Keep talking.
I said try. When talking about race was really about emphasizing the adversity specifically on Black Americans. He said that, right? And
Right.
then we get a pivot not only from Trump, but really from Biden.
Hmm.
Biden's like, yeah, it's so sad. the blacks. But I'm here for equity, equality for everyone.
Right. That pivot was so hard I fell off my chair, literally.
Ooh.
Wait a minute. What happened?
You didn't hurt yourself, did you?
I hurt myself because of
Oh
Biden.
no. Oh, see, Biden, we sending you a medical bill.
Saying we need to send him the bill, baby. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Shout out, to Biden for getting that bill from Arthur because that pivot was so hard it made him fall
It
off his
was
chair. How
hard,
dare
baby.
you?
It was
Oh my
hard.
goodness. And one of the things that also happened, and shout out to everybody in the chat, shout out to everyone that's talking, shout out to everybody that's actually participating. We appreciate that very much.
Mhm.
Um, you know, but one of my other friends actually mentioned that when they even got on the whole Black Lives Matter, he said, you notice that Biden pivoted really hard, right? Um, because and I even made this particular note. Biden acknowledges, the injustices against Black Americans, but pivoted to law enforcement, the speech of, the majority of law enforcement have really fine people, and we just got bad apples that we know how to weed out, and we just need to learn to come together and, sing kumbaya and smoke peyote and
Mhm.
all this would just go away.
Right. When they go, and then after we finish singing, we smoke, and then we go. They go to their side of town, and then we go to our side of town.
Right. Right. Exactly. And
You know,
nothing happens. I mean,
and nothing. No, nothing happens on that side of town. Something happens all
sure.
the time on our side of
I know that's right.
town.
I
That's
know
the
that's right.
problem.
I'm here, Negro. It's your beating time, right?
Right.
Man, that was like, I'm like, sir, you cannot expect these kumbaya circles to fix a systemic problem.
No.
When when will any? I want to ask any person that's caping for Biden for real. Did anybody ask Biden if he knows where law enforcement came from in America in the first place?
Well, you know what? But if you do it, ask Simone Sanders. She gives the most entertaining responses. I mean, if you're going to ask somebody, make it good.
What would you think she would say?
I don't know. That's 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 the good part. You don't know what she's going to say,
Oh my goodness, my goodness.
but she's
Well,
going to say something.
she gonna say something, or if
That guaranteed.
or she might play linebacker and slam you down for trying to ask
Yes,
questions.
that's a big girl. That's a big girl. That's a big girl, baby.
Oh my goodness, I think Simone Sanders actually missed her first calling. If you
Hmm.
believe in that type of thing,
Hmm.
but
Playing for the Bears.
my gosh. Shout out to the Bears. They could use a middle
They could
linebacker.
use her. They could use her.
Oh my God, that is wrong. Cynthia, bad. Okay.
Hmm.
Anywho, now another thing that I didn't. This is another thing I did not appreciate from Biden when we're still all talking about race. Um, he tried to do this "I'm like you" thing when after like Trump talked about ending racial sensitivity training, and I'll get to that in a moment. But he tried to do the whole, well, I'm an Irish Catholic, so Trump's people don't like people like me, and I was like, sir, this is not the 1900s, nor is this Ireland fighting the Great Britain, and somebody needs to send him a copy when the Irish became white.
Right.
You are not like us.
No.
You are not, please. And one of the things I put this particular post up on my page, and I think that we're going to do like a few of these about checking your privilege. And basically what it did, it had a Black woman cop and a white man cop, and they were asked a series of questions, and they said, put up your hand were ever if you were ever stopped at night, and they put up your hand. Put up your hand if you ever was profiled. Put up your hand, put up a finger if you were this. Like all these particular things that would normally happen disproportionately disproportionately to black folk versus white folk. And then they said, now check your hands. If you have little to no fingers up, that's privilege.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it's kind of like I want people to understand that a lot of times white people do not really understand their privilege that they have in this country versus black people. And the consequence of race follows us everywhere we go. Remember when we were talking to those cops?
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Marlon Watson, also from ADOS Chicago, when we almost got arrested in front of the governor's mansion.
Yeah.
And one of the things I remember when we were talking to them is that I said that one of the things that you don't have done to you versus what happens to us is that we are judged right when we walk into a room before we open our mouths. People already make their assumptions about us because we're black. Are these
Mm-hmm.
people educated? Do you got a home to go to? Or you must live on the south side, or you whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
all types of prejudgments are going to actually precede us before we say boo, before
Mm-hmm.
we even say our names. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? That's a consequence of blackness.
Mm-hmm.
And and for him to kind of skirt over that just to say like, well, I'm like you type stuff. No,
Right.
no,
Right.
sir, you don't get to. You
But
don't get
see,
to.
you also got to understand that because of the fact that all black people live on a knife's edge in this country,
Mm,
um, I always feel and talk as if I have nothing to lose.
mm.
You understand? Because you remember when we encountered the policeman, I gave him an earful, didn't I?
Sure did,
I
including
didn't
telling
cuss him out. I just
no,
told him what the deal was.
right, including. Don't forget,
What?
telling the passerby, "Thank you for being a good white man."
Yeah. What he was.
Sure.
He was being a good, calling the police on us made him a good white man in the eyes of the majority.
Sure.
No, I'm not mad at him for that. Because if I saw him in my neighborhood, I'd be a good black man to him. Now, what that would entail, I wouldn't want to go on the air with that, but.
Mm. So let's talk about Law and Order.
Oh, okay.
What?
Ooh, baby, baby, baby.
Hey baby, hey baby. Now,
Mm,
Law and Order. It's kind of interesting. Um, One of the things that was talked about a lot was suburbs being gone. I think that was something that Trump talked about, especially with Law and Order.
mm,
um, and also he does this when you look at blah blah blah. When you look
mm,
at blah blah blah, then he makes these like assertions without really any real facts that's behind them, right?
mm,
And then he does like a whole. Um, I wish I remembered this particular term. Dadgummit. I'm starting to take logic classes, right, so that I can actually learn how to like disseminate arguments properly.
mm,
And one of the things that he starts to do is like when he says when you look at Chicago, then he goes into this whole statement that he feels is like a truth statement, but it's not really the whole case, right? And what I'm saying is that when we look at urban areas, you have to look at the entire environment of what really actually promotes violence.
mm.
You got to. I mean, like, and the thing about it is that one he never acknowledges is pervasive poverty.
Right.
He never does.
Yes, and,
So
and, and urban areas, I mean, when we were standing in front of the governor's mansion, was
mhm.
that in an urban area?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that was
So,
that was city of Chicago proper.
right. So, what do you mean when you say urban area? We
Mm,
need to do like Neely Fuller, ask questions. What does that
exactly.
mean?
Right.
You
What does
know,
that mean?
what does
Yeah.
that mean?
get into epistemology. So
Yeah,
I said, so when if you're looking, I said, when you look at Chicago, I said, well, Chicago, all of Chicago is not enraptured in violence.
right.
But like even when I did my article on ADOShealthandwellness.com, one of the most violent areas is the most impoverished areas. You don't necessarily think that doesn't have a correlation?
Oh, I think so. It's I would just ask white people, do you think it has a
Mm,
correlation?
sure. Yes. And as again, engaging in epistemology type
Right.
things. And, and it's kind of interesting, like, Trump kept on telling Biden, well, you want to defund the police and you believe in left wing politics and I said, no, he doesn't. I was like, I said, Biden is so pro police, it's ridiculous.
Mm,
Remember he said that, the one of the things that he prefaced when talking about race is that, there's a lot of fine people that's in law enforcement. We just got a few bad apples.
mm.
I said, yeah, but we got too many bad apples killing black
Right,
folk.
right. I
You
mean,
know what I'm saying?
I'm not one of those crazies that's talking about me. I'm not talking about defunding the police. We need the police, but
Sure.
okay, but Trump says we have fine people in the police department, right?
Mm,
What we need instead are finer people
mm,
that are properly trained,
mm-hmm,
okay,
mm-hmm.
and are properly deployed.
Sure.
One of the things that policemen need to live in the areas that they police.
Correct.
Okay, they need to have
Mm-hmm,
better training, and maybe on the opposite end, maybe they need to be paid more. Okay, and I say
mm,
this, the reason why I say this is because
mm-hmm,
if you're getting higher quality people, then you're going to have higher quality people being attracted to becoming police. Okay,
mm,
rather than somebody that's just coming there for a paycheck. Okay,
mm,
all right, because the real deal with police is the best policing is when policing is not needed. When you create the conditions for policemen having a real close connection with the community, when they're able to walk down the street and call your children by their first names. You
mm.
understand what I'm saying? When
Sure.
they have a relation with the teachers that live in the area, with the grocers that live in the area, when they know who lives on what block,
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm.
right there creates the conditions for better policing and better solving of crimes because people will be
And
more. Yeah, go ahead.
no, and also creating the conditions where people don't necessarily have to, do a lot of these penny ante crimes in the first place.
Exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
but as far as as far as poverty, only reparations will take care of that
that's right.
and policy.
Exactly. You, you're darn skippy. You're
You
scar and
darn
skippy
skippy.
tootin'. Scar and skippy tootin'.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about policy, let's get into it. So both of these menses put out their plans, right?
Hmm.
We got the platinum chain plan and the lift no voice for Black American plan from Biden
Hmm.
versus Trump. You want to
Hmm.
talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah. Well, they're both the same plan.
Mm,
Okay. And
mm-hmm.
they both have well, let me say this since the platinum plan is the most recent one. The platinum
Yeah,
plan is basically PR. Trump's plan has plenty of bait and switch language,
sure.
slippery words and terms that can mean a lot of things. And this has been actually the plan that Trump and Biden has came out with has been done before. Do you remember
Mm,
Mike Bloomberg's Greenwood initiative? Remember that
I
when he was
believe
running?
so. Y-
Okay.
Yeah.
Now his was not 500 billion like Trump's is. His was like
Mhm.
70 billion.
Yeah, I remember
70
that.
billion and
Hmm.
you know, it's still PR because
Yeah.
any type of now let's just take reparations off the table as far as talking about these plans. These are not reparations plans. These are
No, they're
equity
not.
plans, okay?
Correct.
And
Correct.
if you are going to deal with any kind of equity
Hmm.
for Black Americans, you're
Hmm.
talking about a minimum of 3 trillion. A
To
minimum of
start.
to well, yeah, to start. But if
Hmm.
it's for equity,
Hmm.
it should be at least 3 trillion. This is why. Now you're talking
Mm.
about Bloomberg's plan was 70 billion, right?
Right.
Bloomberg by himself has a net worth of $55 billion. A single individual. Okay. Now, you're saying that we have 32 million ADOS in the country, right? Okay.
Right.
Now, remember now, we got $1,200 on the stimulus plan, right?
Sure.
We got $1,200?
I remember.
Well, if you divide up 70 billion by 32 million, that comes to $2,187 per person. What you gonna do with that? Couple of bills?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help you to catch up 1 month on your mortgage. Half
if
of
you
some
have a
people's
mortgage.
rent. If you have a mortgage, half of that'll take care of a lot of people's rent.
Yep.
For 2 months. Okay, that's your plan, right? Okay. Trump's was 500 million. 500 billion will only take care of Black businesses in Indiana and Illinois. That's it. Nowhere near enough for any kind of even stimulus plan for Black America. So we look upon these things, I look upon these things as just PR to get Black people excited, to get some votes coming his way, and that's where it stops. And you know why it stops that way? Because the language itself, and this is one of the things I'd like to get into, folks. Language is so important.
Say that again.
Language is so important. Okay. And one of the things about ADOS, I'm going to get into this a little bit. One of the things about ADOS is what it's forcing many people to do is to increase their vocabulary, to read better, to understand legal and legislative language better. Okay. Because it cannot be just the responsibility of the leaders to break things down for you. We as a group have to be a politically literate group.
Yes.
Okay. School is there to help you to learn how to read. Okay. There's a difference. School is there to help you learn how to read your alphabets, how to construct a sentence and so forth. But literacy is something that you develop on your own.
Yep.
And you get that through reading. Okay. Yep. And I don't mean just reading anything.
Right.
For example, let's take a look at the language on this lousy thing here, the platinum plan. Okay.
You should call it the platinum chain. The platinum chain plan. Child. I mean, before you even start that, and the reason why we call it the platinum chain plan, I think I stole that from Tone. But calling it the platinum plan at first is racist. This is a throwback to like 90s rappers, talking about F Negroes, get money, F Negroes, get money. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of stuff that they want to talk to. Like, all of a sudden, like, did you call P. Diddy and actually write this plan, Trump? I'm just saying.
Okay.
Continue.
I mean, they got these Jesse Jackson sounding ish terms. Opportunity, security, and on the security phase, they start talking about the First Step Act. Y'all know what that is? Y'all know what the First Step Act is? Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, they talking about going into a Second Step Act. I don't know how they're gonna do that because they never got the first step going yet. Prosperity. Prosperity. And how is that done? By giving long-term funding to historically Black colleges and universities. How does that relate to it might relate to education, but it doesn't relate to prosperity. And then fairness. Fairness is not a word that grown-ups should use. Fairness is what you use to deal with kids in kindergarten.
Right.
Justice is for grown-ups, okay? Don't use that word. Use it for Timmy, use it for little Julie, but don't use it for yourself. Okay?
Word.
Then it goes into 3 million new jobs for the Black community. Now, one thing that I can give Trump credit for, he used the word black a lot more times than Biden did in his thing. He
Yeah.
was now he wasn't able to hold it all the way, but he made a good
You
he
give you
made
an
a
A for effort.
I gave him an A for effort. Okay.
Sure.
All right. 3 million new jobs for the black community coming from where?
Right.
Creating 500,000 new black-owned businesses. How?
Mm.
Increase access to capital in black communities by almost 500 billion. So when you say he's saying increasing access to capital in black communities, it doesn't say that the black people are the ones that are getting the access though. It's just that the capital is in the black community, and that could mean access for Indians, Koreans,
Mhm.
white
Mhm.
folks,
Mhm.
Vietnamese, and everybody else
Mhm.
to get capital to develop business in black communities.
Talk about it.
Save, save urban neighborhoods with highest policing standards, meaning more white people with guns in the
Mm.
community. That's what that means. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the highest standard.
Mhm.
Commit to working on the second step act. Okay, we already talked about that. The first step
Okay.
hasn't even kicked in. So what we no. Access to better education and job training opportunities. Training to do what? Now, they got burger classes at McDonald's to help you flip burgers, and I
Right.
mean,
Burger. What do
training
they
for
call it?
what?
Burger
Right.
University. Yeah.
Give black churches the ability to compete for federal resources for their community. No, 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 no.
Mm.
Pastors have no business participating in any kind of extra capital coming from the government because we'll never get it. Expect your
Mhm.
pastor to have a new Bentley after that. Uh,
Ooh.
that's right.
Mm, mm, mm,
Bring
mm.
better and tailored health care to address historic disparities. To whom?
Mm,
Immigration policy that protects American jobs. Now, this is a wide open and confusing statement here.
mm.
Immigration policy that protects American jobs. Okay, now that could mean that the immigration policy could be expanded to certain people to protect American jobs here because they're
Right.
bringing talent from elsewhere in order to secure those jobs, to secure prosperity for those particular companies.
True.
Advance home ownership opportunities and enhance financial literacy in the black community. Advance home ownership opportunities for whom? It
Mm.
doesn't say black.
Right.
It just says expand, advance home ownership opportunities, and enhance financial literacy. Well, they haven't been doing that. And financial literacy, in most cases, is basically learned at home.
Right.
Uh, and onshoring manufacturing to advance jobs and develop opportunities for black-owned businesses. You can only do that by changing laws, and
Mm.
there's limits to that. You can force businesses to only do so much. You cannot force a business in terms of how it does business as long as it's not impinges on the rights of anybody else.
Right.
If I'm Microsoft, I have the right
Mm.
to place a factory in Russia or a factory in India. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? What
Mhm.
constitutional thing am I injuring by doing that? You can't do that. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, let me see. There's more. Now, on
Oh.
the second part of this, just to show you how much they care about this plan, on the second page, there's all kinds of grammatical errors, misspellings, and misapplications of words. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Maybe the same author who wrote the Platinum Chain Plan also wrote repatriations efforts for local reparations.
Maybe.
No, I'm sorry, reputation efforts for
Reputations.
local
Oh, we gonna
for
we gonna
local
get to him in a
reparations.
minute. Okay.
But
Now
that's actually another show. That's a whole nother show. But go ahead, babe.
they was able to hold themselves to the first paragraph on the next page. Give
Mm,
minority-owned businesses
mm.
additional tax cuts to stimulate hiring and investment. Now, we in ADOS know what minority means. right?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
Okay, we know the hierarchy. We know the hierarchy of minority. Okay, and
Yes, we do.
the people that use that word minority the best are the Democrats. Okay,
Yes. Well, now
now,
they moved on to people of color.
yeah, well, no, they still use it. Now,
Mm, okay.
let's digress to another policy here. Now, this policy, the 10-20-30 plan, that was
Mm-hmm.
written by Chitlins Claiborne. You know, Jim
Mm.
Claiborne. I call him Chitlins. Okay,
Chitlins. Oh dear.
he perfectly uh, did the hierarchy on regarding the word minority, but he didn't even use the word minority. Check this out.
Mm.
He says in his 2030 plan, 2030 plan, in the United States, there are 485 counties where 20% or more of the population has been living below the poverty line for the last 30 years. These counties mired in persistent poverty are as diverse as our great nation. One, Appalachian communities. Who are those people?
White people.
White people in Kentucky and North Carolina. Two, Native American communities. Who are
Indigenous
those people?
people.
Indigenous, right.
Mm-hmm.
Three, Latino communities,
Latinx folk.
right. And guess
Mm.
who comes in last?
African American.
African Americans. And this was written up by a black person.
Who's ADOS?
Who's ADOS? Who
Wow.
needs to retire?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So watch that
Most
word.
definitely. Mm-hmm.
Increase activity in opportunity zones. Well, opportunity zones are for white businesses to come in and throw out a few jobs to some N words, okay?
Right.
Then we go down to access to capital for black-owned businesses. They hold it. They's holding it pretty well. Create they want make the Minority Business Development Agency permanent, appoint its leader to the Assistant Secretary of Commerce level, create a sub-office of African American affairs, and engage with private sector advisors to ensure real world plans and solutions. Now, we got another problem with African American affairs. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to African American, that means Caribbeans first, African immigrants second, and African Americans or ADOS last. That's what that means. Okay.
It always could
And then,
mean black immigrant first is either in the United States, first or second generation, and then
mhm,
always ADOS last.
yes. Actually, though, I've discovered I forgot where I put the article. There's a slight preference for Caribbeans over Africans. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And I think usually, and I think it may be because uh, many Caribbeans have more English proficiency than uh, the Africans that are directly from the continent, excepting Africans that came from England.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, they got it. They got their little races and stratification down, boy. I tell you.
Oh boy, I
Okay.
tell you.
Then it goes on and on and on with the same crappy, slippery language. As I'm just tired of these people. But the thing is, folks, and this is what I wanted to get into a little bit here tonight about literacy and political understanding. Um, we have a lot of people in our community that read no more than a fourth grade reading level. And this is the truth. Some people can get butthurt about it, but I really don't care. You need to hear this, okay?
Mm. This is
Um,
family. This is family,
this is
y'all. It's all
family,
good.
okay? All right. And one of the things that has been a stumbling block in our development as a people in our community, and even understanding the details of our advocacy for reparations, is low comprehension levels. Okay. Um, and when lynching was more active in this country, there were three things that they would lynch people for:
Mm-hmm.
being too successful commercially, uh, the alleged accusation of the rape of a white woman, okay, and the
Mm-hmm.
third was being too educated,
Yes.
okay. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes.
there's four reasons.
Oh,
And
okay.
voting, attempting to vote,
Yes. Which we will be
okay,
talking about pretty soon.
okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
Now, let's just concentrate on two of these: voting and literacy, which are
Mm.
both power. The more you understand in the written word, the more you can dissect it, the more you can take it apart, the better off you will be in all situations. Okay.
Yep.
Reading was such an important thing, and the slaves knew this. The slaves watched as their masters would read, and they would clean their homes and they would see shelves and shelves full of books. Okay. But, but, uh, but, but take somebody like Frederick Douglass, who was taught who was taught his alphabet by the wife of his by the wife of his slave master, Sophia Old. Hugh stopped her tutelage of Frederick Douglass, but Frederick Douglass, on the sly, no schooling, taught
Mm.
himself how to read. And listen to
Mm.
this: while he's in this passage, he's writing about his arrival in New York City in 1838. He
Mm-hmm.
said, "I have often been asked how I felt when first I found myself on free soil, and my readers may share the same curiosity. There is scarcely anything in my experience about which I could not give a more satisfactory answer. A new
Mm.
world had opened up upon me. If life is
Mm.
more than breath and the quick round of blood, I lived more in one day than in a year of my slave life. It was a time of joyous excitement, which words can but tamely describe. In a letter written to a friend soon after reaching New York, I said, I felt as one might feel upon escape from a den of hungry lions. Anguish and grief, like darkness and rain, may be depicted, but gladness and joy, like the rainbow, defy the skill of pen or pencil." Isn't that a beautiful
Mm.
passage? And
Yes.
that was written by somebody that never went to school.
Mm.
He was born in 1818, 47 years before the Emancipation Proclamation. He died in 1895, 30 years after the Emancipation Proclamation.
Mm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm saying, family, is that again, reading you learn in school, but literacy you learn on your own. Okay. And as reparationists, it is incumbent upon every official member of ADOS to get his comprehension up, especially in terms of the things that we're concentrating on. Now, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
show you a few books.
Come
Okay.
on now. Come on with the books. Come on with the books.
And these books are going to help you to understand politics better on a basic level. Now, if you got to take these books and cover them up with bag paper, whatever book cover, so that you can read this stuff on public transportation, do it. But I'm telling you, these three books are the best primers on politics. The
Mm.
first one is How Washington Actually Works for Dummies. Excellent book by Greg Rushford. Okay,
Mm.
excellent book.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is Congress for Dummies. Okay,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and this
Mm-hmm.
was written by David Silverberg. Okay, and then the last one is Politics for Dummies. Okay,
Mm.
and this one is written by Anne Delaney. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm telling you, get these books because you have to understand the systems, the connections, and the flow of politics in order for you to get a great, a better grasp of all the things that Tone and Yvette teach us. Okay. The
Exactly.
second thing,
Exactly.
The second thing that I'm in love with, and Cynthia will tell you this, these are not as crucial because you kids have these smartphones, and I use them too. But I'm into dictionaries.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Remember your history. Malcolm X got his great eloquence while he was in prison. And you know how he did that? He read the dictionary. This is just one of my dictionaries. Okay. This is the Oxford English Dictionary. Okay. This is my guidebook when I'm writing. The elements of style, okay, helps you to construct sentences and word usage and stuff, okay?
It's important.
Modern English usage by Oxford, okay? You gotta um, uh, get more. I would also suggest that you read actual books. I mean, Kindle and all those other services are fine, but it's something that better wires your brain when you have a physical book and you're going through this stuff. The
I
other
agree.
thing is to start acquiring sophistication about politics. I read not only the things that are suggested by tone and so forth, but I also read the opposition.
Yes.
This was written by Cam Howard of In Cobra.
Lift it up some more so they can see the bottom.
Oh,
This way, babe. There you go.
he wrote this book, right? Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead, Cynthia. I know you just bursting of it. Go
A
ahead, babe.
guide for providing national symmetry for local reputation efforts.
Right. He doesn't even care to make sure that he wrote that he spelled out reparations properly on the cover of his own book. And
Oh, God.
this book was written by Ron Daniels of NARC. Okay. And the reason why I read the opposition's book is for the same reason that if you are a member of a basketball team and there is a formidable opponent that you are trying your best to beat, you're going to be sitting there in your coach's classroom watching films of the other team. Okay.
Right.
Or if you're a boxer, you're going to be doing the same thing. Okay. So in other words, start developing the sophistication to understand the competition. That is one of the
Correct.
ways that you win. Okay.
Babe,
I
we
even
had
read
a
what?
1 second before you go on, because we had a couple of people who asked a question. The passage that you read, where can they find that passage? I believe that you read from Frederick Douglass.
Oh, Wikipedia under Frederick Douglass. Yeah.
Okay. And then
Right.
the first book that you named that you were reading, could you
The
please name
first
the
one?
first book?
Okay.
Yes.
First one
I think
was
it was one of those books for dummies. I read all the dummies books because I'm a dummy.
How Washington Actually Works.
Works for dummies. Yes. And then also, y'all, you can rewind the show. Just letting you
Yeah.
know. Okay.
All right.
I just want to let y'all know. But
I not only wa-
but
okay, let me finish. I
go
not only
ahead.
like I not only like to read the competition about the competition within the reparations movement, but I also like reading books that are written by racists. Okay, like this, The White Man's Bible. Okay, or David Horowitz, who wrote a whole book opposing reparations. Okay, this was written by a Jewish individual. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so and the thing is, the reason why you read that is because that's what's out here. You need to
Yeah.
understand the thinking processes of what you're coming up against so that you can come up with better strategies and better arguments. That's why.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Um, and then there are other books that I read to expand my knowledge of reparations and see what kind of flavors are out here. For example, um, the reason why I bought this book, Race and Reparations by Clarence Munford, is because I acquired this book. This was way before Darity's book came out, and the reason why is because whenever I ran across articles that were written by white people regarding reparations, they would always quote from this book.
Mm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, well, who is this dude? So I
Mm.
got the book, and I
Mm-hmm.
found out that like he does not. Mumford discusses reparations not from an economist type of view, but from a historical type of view, and he's also
Mm-hmm.
kind of Pan-Africanist. All right,
Mm.
so there's some things in this book that I'm cool with, and of course there's some things in here that I'm not cool with. But at least
Sure.
I know where the what's in this source. Okay.
Right.
Um, then there's another book that I bought before Darity's book, Reparations Pro and Con. This particular book has different articles in it written by different authors, going over uh, why for reparations and why not for reparations. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important
Mm-hmm.
to understand all the arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is another book by Dr. Darity.
Mm.
I don't know if you guys have seen this book. It's called Persistent Disparity, and it's by Dr. Darity. And I'm going to be using this book as my part two to From Here to Equality. So I'm just trying to help all of the ADOS people to get more sophisticated in terms of their understanding. Okay.
Correct.
And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why that I'm telling you to expand your vocabulary is because one of the main things that we need to understand as a group is legal and legislative language.
Right.
Now, let me tell you a little secret about that. Legal and legislative language is not special.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let these lawyers out here will bullshit you on that. No,
Mm.
it's not special. Legal and legislative language is nothing but college level English using all the words. That's all it is. Okay.
All
There
the
is
words.
all the words. Okay.
Exactly.
Using, but you're using all the words in a legal or legislative context. So, in other words, basically, I'm saying that the more you expand your regular English vocabulary, the
Mm-hmm.
more you will be to be able to understand legal and legislative documents. Okay. Uh, Other kinds of words that are more technical, no, they're not all that necessary for the everyday person to know if you're not in those fields. Okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
terminologies from mathematics, physics, chemistry, music, engineering. If that's not something that you do, then there's no urgency to know that language. But
Right.
the 5 kinds of language that an everyday person needs to get themselves up on to be a fully functioning political person is legal language, legislative language, business language, economic language, and financial language.
Mm-hmm.
All of those words need to be in your vocabulary, and if they're not, you need to get them there.
And then because to your point, all of those particular points rules all of our lives.
Exactly.
They rule all of our lives. So going back to, speaking of policy, legislation, and even like, our political advocacy, let's talk a little bit about voting. So I wanted to bring this particular article up and shout out to Princess Six from ADOS Atlanta, who actually wrote this particular article
Ooh,
about
okay.
down ballot. This was actually in the Black AM ADOS. Oh, sorry, Black AMDOScaucus.com. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and put the link in the chat so that you all can see it. Know if I can highlight it. So like if you all want to actually see it later, but it's a really good article about, the importance of down ballot and why we do it, right? So I'm just going to read a little bit of it, and then we are going to talk a bit more about, voting in different states and what down ballot will look like depending on what state you reside in. So what is down ballot voting? Down ballot voting is voting for the state, local, municipal, and referendums. The results of elections lead to resource allocation and budgets. For instance, in 2019, voters in Gwinnett County decided via referendum to reject the expansion of public transportation. In 2020, voters will decide 27 offices with only 5 federal offices on the ballot.
Mm,
Down ballot voting for Gwinnettians will require that each voter familiarize themselves with local issues in order to cast their votes. All politics is local, when while nullifying the federal ballot, it is still important to vote down ballot, i.e., in 22 other state and local races. And then she has a quote here from Dr. Bernice King, who says, you can't take away someone's right to vote just because they haven't decided to exercise it. When you take people off the ballot, off the voter rolls, because they haven't chosen to exercise their rights, to me, that is suppression. And then she kind of goes into like some of the things that actually happened in Georgia, as we know from Brian Kemp versus Stacey Abrams, and how over 50,000 people were purged from the voters' rolls. And then also there were polls that were closed, long lines to the polls. Some people waited 6 to 7 hours before they were able to cast their ballots in the primary, and some other things that were going to be happening as because of voter suppression happening. But as she goes on, one of the things that she pointed out was that when you don't show up to at least vote down ballot, you are
mm,
complicit in attempts to suppress your vote. And she wrote this particular article was posted on King's birthday, and she
mm,
said, "On this King Day, as we commit to increase political engagement for economic stability for American descendants of slavery, ADOS, you can't afford to help of efforts to suppress your vote. As the torchbearers of Dr. King's legacy, show up and vote down."
mm,
So that's what we're talking about now. We want to talk about down ballot strategy
mm.
for your state. Take it
Yes.
away. Take it away, Arthur D. Ward.
Okay, well, we're gonna go over this. I mean, and actually, everything that I'm talking about is already on my blog, which is www.adosabsolute.com, and it's the last post called "The Proper Vote." Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but we're gonna go over it again now without the curse words. The curse words are on the blog, but we won't do the curse words here. Okay, now,
Aw. I
oh,
mean, yes, this is a family show. This
the
is a
family
family show.
show. Okay,
Yes.
okay. All right. Now I put this post up so that the Adams family down ballots with an awareness of the various state voting laws. We
Right.
don't want to lose any down ballot votes on the basis of technicalities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a listing of latitudes that you can and cannot do within all states. Now, this is important, family. Okay. Now, first, and there's three types. The first is states that allow write-ins at the executive or presidential level. No prior filing is required for write-in candidates. Now, I hope you got your pens and papers ready, okay? Because I'm going to give you the states, okay? Those states are Alabama, Iowa, Maryland, Mississippi, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington, D.C., and Wyoming. Okay. Now, these states you can write in ADOS or your granddaughter or your mother or whatever, okay? Or you can just leave those slots blank. The important thing again is not to give the Democrats the vote for president, okay? Now, the second group, these states allow write-ins under restrictions, and we'll get into the restrictions. Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, New York, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Washington State, West Virginia, and last, Wisconsin. Now, that's a long list. Now, what does under restrictions mean? Now, different things in different states, okay? Not sure. I'm not sure if I would want to risk my ballot being disqualified in any of those states. The restrictions themselves are laid out in politician, deliberated, and composed pseudo-legalese, stuff that most adult age, fourth grade reading level type people can't comprehend, okay? And in my home state of Illinois, even if a write-in candidate has filed the proper registration paperwork with the state and have received their certification, election judges can redetermine at any time which write-in candidates are running in their precinct, both federal and local. And now I know that's unbelievable, but those people can do that. Illinois' Democratic election judges are historically notorious for nonsense, okay? Now, I'm going to keep this real simple. I will end up voting for a third-party candidate with the Green Party or the Libertarian Party. If those choices are not available, I will just end up voting for Trump. Leaving the presidential spots blank in these states will legally open the door for the possibility of your whole ballot being disqualified, and we don't want that. So I will have to do this, third party or Trump. The important thing is not to give the Democrats the vote for president, okay? And the last set of states that don't allow down ballot blank spots or write-ins, period. Those states are Arkansas, Hawaii, Louisiana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and South Dakota. Now, don't mess around with these states. No blank spots. Do either third party or Trump. The important thing is not to give the Democrats the vote for president, okay? So, and the important thing, again, is not to give the Democrats the vote for president. All right, family, I really don't feel like hearing Cardi B on election night, okay? So let's do this.
So I would also like to just preface, like, what Arthur is saying, that we are not advocating voting for Trump at all. Trump is a horrible president. But the thing about it is, and I know that Yvette talks about this too, is that, we've invested a lot in the Democratic Party as ADOS people. We've been voting primarily Democratic over 90% of the time since the 1960s, right? So and we haven't gotten any exchange for our vote. Like, we have not received any real transformative legislation since 1964. And that's and even that was piecemeal, right? So it's kind of like, no, it's not kind of, it's like, you have ignored us. So since you are not ignoring us, we're ignoring you, And I also like to say, concerning third party, in actuality, third party candidates are on the majority of the ballots in all 50 states. So if you are at risk of not being able to have like a blank out at the top of the ticket, You know, third party is definitely a viable option for the majority of you. But regardless, and also I would even say this, even though like we're not necessarily endorsing any candidate, um, and what we are really pushing for, as we always say, is reparations for the American descendants of slavery and a Black agenda. And if
mm,
you and adherence to a Black agenda, and if you can't do that, we can't support you.
mm,
Period. You know, so we want to make that very, very clear. And now that we are in this election cycle, people, it's extremely important for us to be very ready when it's time for us to go to the ballot box. So make sure that if you were going to vote by mail, or do the ballot box, to make sure you request your ballot now as quickly as possible. You can do that online. You can even Google request my ballot, and then it will take you to the proper sites in order for you to do that. Also, make sure that you are doing your due diligence when it comes to research. Um, a good place to go is canivote.org. Matter of fact, let me put that in the chat. Canivote.org. And this particular website is where you can actually see if you did register to vote. So you want to make sure that your voter registration is there, right? Another thing you can go to is ballotready.org. Putting those in the chat right now. And this is also where you can go to really research your ballot for your municipality and state. So you can see exactly who is on the ballot. And you can also click on the ballot, everybody who is running for every office, and it will give you a lot of information about them, their platform, what they're pushing for, the whole dig. Okay. And then another place that you can go to is Ballotpedia.org. Ballotpedia is also a really good resource area for you to go to in order for you to research candidates of who is running as well. And thank you, Mod. Shout out to Nick Music. And to find out if you are registered to vote here, fam, you can go to here. nas.org. Can I vote? So we all know that voting and participating in the voting process is extremely important. And the reason being is because that's one way for you to be heard on election day on what you want as a constituent. So it's extremely important that we show up. If you are in Chicago or even in Illinois, well, I know specifically in Chicago, early voting starts October 14th, and you can actually go to any area in the neighborhoods in order for you to vote early. That's what I
mm,
plan on doing. I ain't about to mess with the mail right now because they're doing too much, you know. So I plan on going early as possible, and to do early voting in an area that's not too far from my home. Of course, I
mm,
will be social distancing. I will be PP'd up, PPE'd up, all the masks, the K95s, the I have like I'll probably have a whole big damn plastic bubble. I might come in a hazmat suit, y'all. I ain't even gonna lie. So
mm,
I just know that I'm going to be very much so covered when I go to do early voting. However, like again, you can still request your ballot. Make sure you are researching all the people that's going to be on the ballot. Make sure that you are making informed decisions before you say yes or no. Read all the referendums. There is way more on that ballot than just presidency. Okay? And remember too this, that a third of the Senate and all the House of Representatives is up for re-election.
mm,
Okay, so if anything is extremely consequential, also in this particular race, is who is going to be sitting in them seats come January 2021 concerning Congress, because even remember, Congress can overrule vetoes by presidents. And Congress can amend laws that even the Supreme Court says is unconstitutional. So keep that in mind. Congress is extremely important. And yes, I feel you. I don't like my senator, so I'm voting away from him too. So I feel
Mm.
you, La Batista, La Bestia. I feel you. So, oh yes, and you are correct. Marlon Watson, president of ADOS Chicago. Yes, you can now vote downtown. They have a super center that is open for early voting if you are in that area to vote now. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. All right, y'all. I think that this was a fantabulous show full of informationes for your edutainment.
Mm. No, I just want to let them know that we just don't be sitting around looking like dummies and stuff, you know.
Regardless if we read Congress for Dummies, How Washington Works for Dummies, Voting for Dummies, My Computer Sucks for Dummies.
Yeah.
We are all on all that. But no, we need some reading people because, without you, you ain't reading, you going to be a dummy, right? Oh, again, thank you everyone for tuning into yet another episode of the 13%.
Right.
Again, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell for every time that we go live, you get a notification. And also, if you like the content, consider being a Patreon, and also buy us a coffee. We like our coffee with almond milk and agave. So buy
Mm.
us some. Yes. And also, we like to thank our patrons, Marsha Filipello, Best Name Ever, me, and President of ADOS Chicago, Marlon
Mm.
Watson. Thank you for the support, family. Thank you guys for tuning in. You have a great evening. Good
Good
night.
night.